Hey everyone, welcome to the ranking, and yes, I'm here to talk about Frank Oz. Yes, Frank Oz. Yes, don't you all just love Frank Oz? You love him in the Muppets movie, you love him in Labyrinth, and of course he's Master Yoda and stuff. But in this ranking, I'm not going to be ranking Frank Oz's movies as him as an actor. I'm going to be ranking his movies him as a director. I'm going to be ranking his directorial movies, yes. I love Frank Oz as a filmmaker. I think he makes such really funny movies. Most of his movies are hilarious comedies. He has a few serious ones, but they're mostly comedy movies, and honestly, he's directed 12 films, and out of his 12 films, 9 are fantastic. 3 are absolute garbage, but he's got a lot of great movies. He's 9 for 12. That is a very good filmography and stuff. And plus he's got Star Wars as Yoda, so that adds to the amazingness that is Frank Oz. So yeah, let's get to it. Here's my ranking of Frank Oz's movies, but the movies he's directed. Just directed. So yeah, here's my ranking. Alright, coming at number 12 is the Stepford Wives. I love the original Stepford Wives. It's a fantastic indie horror film in the early 1970s. It's fantastic. This year's Get Out had a lot of inspiration from the Stepford Wives and stuff, and they remade it as a comedy with Nicole Kidman and Glenn Close and Matthew Broderick. It's stupid. I hate this movie. This is hands down the worst movie Frank Oz has directed. It tried a more comedic approach to a horror film, and it just doesn't work. It does not work. The ending is a little funny, what they do with the husbands, but all in all, it's not a good movie. Coming number 11 is House Sitter. Yes, this is with Steve Martin and Goldie Hawn. I'm not a Goldie Hawn fan. She has a couple good ones, but I'm not a big fan of Goldie Hawn. I love Steve Martin. Steve Martin is so freaking funny. One day I might do a top 10 favorite Steve Martin movies, because some of my favorite comedies he has done. Like The Jerk and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles and stuff. And my number 1, which you all know probably what it is, but this movie's not good. It's not funny. I don't like the scenario. I don't like the premise. I don't like these characters. I don't think Steve Martin and Goldie Hawn have chemistry. It's just a very forgettable, generic comedy, and I am not a fan of House Sitter. Coming number 10 is Death at a Funeral. Yes, not the original Death at a Funeral with Alan Tudyk, the British version. That is hilarious. That movie's funny. I really enjoy Death at a Funeral with Peter Dinklage and stuff. He's in the remake as the same exact role. You know what I really hate? I freaking can't stand shot-for-shot remakes. That's why I hate Gus Van Sant's Psycho, and that's why I hate this movie, Death at a Funeral. It is actually kind of well-liked. It's a 60% on Rotten Tomatoes. I have no idea why. It is a exact shot-for-shot, line-for-line remake of the British version. It just has famous people. It has Chris Rock, Martin Lawrence, Luke Wilson, James Marsden, Zoe Saldana all in the movie. That does not make it funny. And Peter Dinklage is back as the same role he did in the original. The original was a funny movie. Copying the same jokes does not make a funny movie. James Marsden does a few things differently, which makes it a little funny, but still, it's not a good movie. I don't like shot-for-shot remakes, and that's why I hate Death at a Funeral. Coming number 9 is The Dark Crystal. Yes, some people are going to be like, fuck you, how is The Dark Crystal not number 1? What the fuck's wrong with you? Hold on. I like this movie. This is a very good movie. Out of these 9 movies, I just like it less than these other movies. Like, I still think it's a great film. I have the Blu-ray. I love this movie. I watch it like once a year. I grew up with this movie. I love the puppets. I love the practical effects in the story. It's a bit corny. It's a bit one-note at times, and it's incredibly predictable, but I still love The Dark Crystal. I love, like, the never-ending story of The Dark Crystal. I love movies like this. Labyrinth is probably the best out of these kind of dark kids movies with puppets and stuff. Labyrinth is the best of the best, but I like The Dark Crystal. It's a good movie. It just, out of his filmography, it's just not as good as these other movies, but it's still a good movie. Coming number 8 is The Score. Yes, The Score is Edward Norton and Robert De Niro. This is a more serious Frank Oz movie, and it's very good. I don't want to spoil it, but it's about these 2 con artists, and they're trying to rip off this building with this ancient artifact, this gold rod and stuff. And basically, Edward Norton is like one of the big con artists. He pretends to be mentally handicapped to rip people off and stuff. And Robert De Niro is more of like, you know, the techie robber guy. He robs banks and big businesses businesses and stuff. He's more of the smart one, he's more of the con artist one, and basically they have to work together to steal this goldenrod and stuff, and it's a very good movie. There is some comedic elements to it, but it's also a very thrilling, entertaining film. Edward Norton, Robert De Niro, and even Marlon Brando. Yeah, they're all great in this movie. It's a great heist movie, and I love it. Coming number 7 is What About Bob? What About Bob is hilarious. Richard Dreyfuss and Bill Murray. Fun fact, I heard they hated each other while they made this movie. My God, does that show, because they hate each other. Well, Richard Dreyfuss hates Bill Murray in this movie, and God does it ever show, and that's what makes it so funny, because Richard Dreyfuss hated Bill Murray in real life, so you can see that, you can feel that hatred in this movie. That's why the movie Whatever Happened to Baby Jane with Bette Davis and Joan Crawford, that's why that movie works so much, because them two really hate each other in real life, so you can feel the hatred in the characters in the movie. That's what made it so much more better. That's why What About Bob is so funny, because Richard Dreyfuss's anger is real anger, and it's hilarious. This movie is also really great if you ever had, like, any sort of mental illness, like, if you're obsessive compulsive disorder or something, or you have severe paranoia. I think you can get a lot of laughs watching What About Bob. Bill Murray is so funny. Richard Dreyfuss is so funny. The story is funny. Basically, we all had friends or patients or whatever like this. People who just follow us around and they're annoying as shit. And yeah, I love this movie. It's so funny. Coming number 6 is Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. Like I said, I love Steve Martin. I think he's so funny, and him with Michael Caine in this movie is so funny. I love these two guys that rip people off. They rip women off and stuff, and yeah, I love it. I don't want to spoil the twist, but they basically each try to go after this girl, and basically they're in contest with each other who can rip this girl off first and stuff, and yeah, it's so funny. It's so funny. Michael Caine's hilarious. Steve Martin's hilarious. The entire premise and idea of this movie, it just works, and again, it's funny. Coming number 5 is The Muppets Take Manhattan. Yes, definitely not my favorite Muppets movie. I love The Muppets Christmas Carol, The Muppet Movie, The Muppets in 2011. Those are the best Muppets movie. But this is the one directed by Frank Oz, and he did a good job. He did a lot of the voicing, like Miss Piggy and stuff, and it's a good idea. It's got great fourth wall breaking jokes, and again, it's The Muppets. It's definitely better than Muppets in Space and shit like that, and I like it. It's better than The Great Muppet Caper, even though a lot of people love it. I love that movie too, but Muppets Take Manhattan's a better movie. It's a good Muppets movie. It's not the best one, but it's definitely a great film directed by Frank Oz. Coming number 4 is The Indian in the Cupboard. Yes, I grew up with this movie. Just sheer nostalgia alone, it gets the extra points, but I read the book as a kid. I read it in my grade 3 English class and stuff, and I loved it. It was such a good book, and I love this movie. I love this movie with this magical cupboard that makes your toys come alive. That is such a cool idea and a cool premise and stuff, and it's almost kind of like a real-life version of Toy Story, and it's so good, it's so hilarious, it's so enjoyable. Basically about this kid who turns this Indian toy into a real-life Indian man, and then his friend turns his cowboy into a real-life cowboy and stuff. There's even a really funny scene when he grabs all these famous toys, like the T-Rex from Jurassic Park, Darth Vader and stuff. He puts them all in the cupboard, and it is so funny. It's so unique. It's so enjoyable. The chemistry between Littlefoot, is it Little Bear? Little Bear. Yeah, whatever. I'm thinking Land Before Time. Yeah, between Little Bear and the kid is great chemistry. The premise and story alone is really good, has good practical effects, and yeah, sheer nostalgia alone, I love it, but the movie itself is still very good. Coming number 3 is Little Shop of Horrors. Yes, Little Shop of Horrors. I love musicals. Again, Steve Martin, he's so funny as this psychotic dentist. Bill Murray has one of the funniest cameos in a musical. John Candy's great. I love Rick Moranis. I can say his name. He's hilarious, he's great, he's got a great singing voice, the musical numbers, and of course, Seymour. Scary as shit. That plant scares the fucking shit out of me. It's scary. It's terrifying. If they actually went with the original alternate ending, that'd scare the shit out of me. But yeah, this movie's great. It's this weird comedy, musical, horror movie, and it just works. It's awesome. Coming number 2 is In and Out. Yes, In and Out stars Kevin Kline, Matt Dillon, Joan Cusack. I love this movie. This movie deals with homosexuality. Basically, it's about this actor who wins an Oscar, and he thanks his teacher, and he calls his teacher gay on national television, and then basically everyone thinks Kevin Kline is gay in the movie and stuff, and basically they want to fire him as a teacher. They don't want to give him his teacher award and stuff because they think he's a homosexual. And it actually turns out he is a homosexual and stuff, but this is about society not accepting homosexuality and stuff, and this is a comedy too. This is a very funny movie, but it deals with a very important subject about homosexuality, and it does it very funny, it does it very mature, and it does it in a very unique and different approach, and it's done very well. I really like this movie. I think Tom Selleck is funny, I think Kevin Kline is funny, I think Joan Cusack is really good. I love the story of this movie, and I just love the idea and the premise, and it has a very good message in the end as well. And yeah, this is hands down my second favorite movie Frank Oz has directed. And my number 1 favorite Frank Oz movie that he's directed is Bowfinger. You all know why it's Bowfinger. I mentioned this in my top 10 favorite Eddie Murphy's list. This is my top 20 favorite comedies of all time. I love the idea. I love the idea of filmmaking, putting this guy in a movie that he doesn't know. Steve Martin is amazing. Eddie Murphy's amazing. Everyone knew this would be my number 1. Of course, Bowfinger is my favorite movie directed by Frank Oz. So yeah, that was my ranking of all Frank Oz's movies that he's directed, from my least favorite to my favorites. So yeah, in the comment section below, please tell me what is your ranking of all Frank Oz's movies that he's directed, from your least favorite to your favorite. Comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like this video, please like, subscribe to his channel, and join the dark side.